Now these are stories that are definitely worth continuing with another movie. Hey everyone, it's Movie Lover Warren 20 here, and I'm here with a brand new Top 11 video, and this Top 11 is going to be much like my trilogy of Top 11 movies that did not need a sequel, except this time, I'm going to be counting down a list of films of Top 11 movies that deserve a sequel, because these are stories worth continuing, seeing where these other stories go, see where these characters' stories go after their last ending, or endings that just leave it open-ended for more possibilities to happen. These are just films that should have the continuation that just perfectly, there's more you can tell with these characters. But yeah, so unlike my last sequels list, this is going to be for the movies that should get sequels and are actually deserved. So anyway, let's get started with number 11. Kicking off at number 11 is Freddy vs. Jason. Yes, I know this has been a little too late now, but I really wish, again, we have that sequel comic, but I want that sequel comic to be turned into a movie, or have a movie be set after those comics, or just have an adaptation of Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash, or heck, another slasher crossover, like maybe Jason vs. Michael or something like that. I mean, just have Robert Englund do one last Freddy portrayal, and this sequel would be the end to the character for good. And this time in this sequel, I want King Hutter to come back and play Jason for this one. I mean, sure, his films weren't that great, but he was still a pretty good Jason for what he was given. But no, of course, Hollywood decided to go make a sequel to Alien vs. Predator of all fucking movies instead of a sequel to this. And this movie, by the way, guys, was way more successful than than Alien vs. Predator, because it had a smaller budget. Somehow, or just as equally successful as that movie. I mean, just that ending alone leaves you you want to see more from Freddy and Jason having another duel, or you want to see more slasher villains having a fight. I mean, you should do that now, especially now that Michael Myers is back in. You can now you can do that crossover. I would like to see a direct sequel to Jason Lives, and that direct sequel could lead into Jason versus Michael or something like that. So, ironically, I think this deserves a somewhat follow-up, just with a different icon, and that's why I put it at number 11. Kicking off at number 10 is for another horror film, and this one's a horror remake, and that is Evil Dead 2013. Yeah, I mean, and the reason why I say that is because, well, now that Bruce Campbell has retired from playing Ash, I feel like we should now be getting a follow-up with Mia. I mean, why the hell have they not given us that Mia sequel we should be getting? I mean, the original series is still better, but this was actually pretty good for a remake. And I would like to see another continuation of the Mia storyline. Have a second installment be about Mia, or something like that. Heck, maybe Ash can come back for one last time, and just have Mia and Ash team up in the sequel or something, and then make the sequel even better. I mean, even the ending of the 2013 movie kind of hints there's going to be more to come just by that book closing and stuff. I mean, this is a remake that actually deserves to have a continuation. Unlike a lot of bad remakes that always seem to get the sequels, this is one that seemed to get left out. And I really wish they could make another one of these, because this was actually pretty good for a remake, and Mia is a character you should be giving more stories to. That's why I put Evil Dead 2013 at number 10. Kicking off at number 9 would have to be a movie that came out last year from Pixar, and that is none other than Luca. Yes, I know Pixar doesn't really plan on making sequels now, but I think this is a Pixar film that actually deserves to have another film or something, or maybe even a series continuation, like, or maybe not a sequel film, but more like a TV series follow up, or maybe like the plot of this movie, like, is set in the Italian River and around the 50s. It's about this sea monster who can disguise as a human, or two sea monsters disguised as a human who end up in this town of Porto Rosso and develop this friendship and stuff. And yeah, like, you can. There's just some more stories to tell with these characters. I mean, you have that Alberto short that's on Disney Plus, and I'd like to see another short like about Luca being in school or something like that, or yeah, during his time in school, I would like to see a series based on him during those times. I mean, see him going on other adventures with Alberto over the summer. I mean, like, it's just perfectly open ended. I mean, there's just more to tell with these characters. I would like to see another continuation of these characters, and sure, yeah, I get Pixar doesn't really want to make sequels anymore, and they have made some unnecessary cash grab sequels to films that don't need them, like Finding Nemo or Cars or Toy Story 3. But I feel like Luca could end up becoming the next most demanded a sequel Pixar film since The Incredibles. Back because we all remember everyone was just like, give us a sequel to The Incredibles, give us a sequel to The Incredibles, give us a sequel to The Incredibles. Well, I hope Luca kind of gets those requests next, and eventually we do get some sort of continuation, either spin-off or TV series. I just like to see these characters again. Like, these are characters I would love to see more of. That's why I put it at number 9. Kicking off at number 8 would have to be a comedy film starring Simon Pegg from 2011, Paul. Yes, guys, I mean, I actually ironically would love to see a sequel to this. This is actually one of the funniest movies of the 2010s. It's one of my favorite sci-fi comedies of all time, and easily one of my favorite Seth Rogen roles of all time. I mean, Paul is just a funny alien character, and this is just a great story too. Like, it's about two English comic book geeks who go across the U.S. and they basically have to almost turn themselves into fugitives to get this alien they discover outside Area 51 back to his ship before he gets taken in to be experimented on. It's kind of like an R-rated version of E.T. in kind of a way, except E.T. actually talks. Or have this be an E.T. that actually speaks instead of just saying alien language and stuff. I mean, Paul's just, I think, an iconic character. He should, like, get another appearance or something. I'd like to see him kind of reunite with these two guys. I mean, maybe, like, have the sequel be the two geeks going on this world tour to publish their book, and then somehow Paul ends up crash landing on Earth again, and they reunite him, and they have to, like, prove his existence to the world, as some fans maybe don't believe he exists, or some believe the story was just made up for fame, and so now the two geeks kind of have to prove that Paul was not fake or just a made-up character and stuff. I mean, that would be a pretty cool, like, concept, where the whole world discovers Paul's existence, instead of just them and stuff. But, like, yeah, I mean, like, it may seem like weird to give this a sequel, but personally, I think this movie totally deserves a sequel. I think we deserve to see more of this character, Paul. And that's why I put it at number 8. Kicking off at number 7 is going to be a controversial pick, but I believe this should happen after the last movie we got at the end of the year of this character, and that's, of course, going to be for none other than 2007's Spider-Man 3, and cue the haters now going to give me crap for liking this movie. Yes, guys, I'm one of the few people that actually likes and defends this movie. This was the first Spider-Man movie I saw in theaters, and I have loved it ever since. I mean, yeah, there's some things that I can agree that really annoy me, like the Bully Maguire dance, or just anything with Bully Maguire or Topher Grace and stuff, but after Spider-Man No Way Home, I really hope we do get that Spider-Man 4 movie where Tobey Maguire comes back and does the character again. I mean, we were supposed to get a 4th one, but it got canceled. So, I hope that after Doctor Strange 2, Sam Raimi gets another chance to direct this movie. I mean, and then we get to see the Spider-Man we all grew up with and loved, Tobey Maguire, come back and do the role for a 4th time, and see how it is after the whole events of No Way Home, how his story's going after the events of No Way Home or something like that. I mean, I think a 4th one is still well deserved for me, especially. I mean, heck, maybe I'd even like to see another Andrew Garfield film, like be a 3rd film where Andrew Garfield actually gets to complete his trilogy. So, ironically, I kind of would maybe put both Spider-Man 3 and the TASM series, even though TASM 2 is horrible. I I think Andrew Garfield still deserves to have his story complete. Now that he's finally had his redemption in No Way Home, I hope both Maguire and Garfield can have their stories completed now. So that's why I put this movie at number 7, and I will always still like this movie no matter what. Kicking off at number 6 is going to be for another superhero film, and it's not set within Marvel or DC. It's from an unknown publisher named Dark Horse Comics, and that's of course going to be Hellboy 2: The Golden Army. Because like seriously, why did you make a fucking reboot instead of this third film? And you guys were so stupid to can Guillermo del Toro from completing his vision. I mean, this movie made more money than Hellboy 1. It was way more successful than Hellboy 1. It even got better reviews than Hellboy 1. Sure, I mean, I like Hellboy 1 better, but this got a better critical reception. It was more successful than the first one. Why the hell did we not get a Hellboy 3 in the Del Toro series? I would have loved to see that instead of like another 2019 reboot, and stuff. Like, it's no wonder there's a good reason Ron Perlman backed out of this. I mean, hopefully, like, just the failure of the 2019 movie hopefully could be a wake-up call to finally complete the Del Toro series like we deserve to have. We should have. Like, this is still a really good sequel too. Like, this one is about the prince of the mythical world who starts a rebellion against humanity in order to rule the earth, and now Hellboy and his friends must fight to stop him from locating the all-powerful Golden Army and stuff. And the cliffhanger in Hellboy 2 even kind of somewhat set up a third when Liz revealed she was pregnant with 2 babies. I mean, so yeah, Hellboy 3 needs to happen. And it's about Hellboy trying to be a father to his 2 kids and stuff, and like the end could have one of his kids taking on his mantle or something. Like, yes, like, just in general, this is a timeline that deserves to be completed, and I hope Hellboy 3 can eventually happen at some point. So that's why I put it at number 6. Kicking off at number 5 is going to be for an action film from 2009, and that is Crank: High Voltage. This is actually, ironically, another second installment that never got a follow-up. I mean, it's kind of weird to make this movie because Crank was a movie that didn't really need a sequel because it kind of ended the story on a good note, but for somehow, this movie proved to still be good, if not better than the first one. I mean, yeah, it's kind of weird and it's kind of stupid at times, but that's the whole point. It's kind of supposed to be even stupider. It knows it's an unneeded sequel. And it acknowledges it. This one's kind of the same plot of the first one. Where Chelios faces a Chinese mobster who stole his indestructible heart and replaced it with a battery-powering ticker which regularly requires jolts of electricity to keep working. But yeah, it's kind of, this one goes more absurd and much like, and the ending, like, just that, it also has an open ending, which, like, seriously, we were kind of supposed to get a third one, but it's just never happened at this rate. Like, even, like, the directors have said they want a third one to happen. Even Jason Statham is interested in doing a third one if it ever gets greenlit, so a third one would be kind of pointless. It'd be a little too stupid at this rate considering how Chelios ended up at the end of this movie, but I'd like to see a final continuation. One last chapter in Chev Chelios' storyline. And then at this end of this movie, Chev Chelios dies for good at this movie, and it's a complete trilogy right there. And stuff. I don't know, like, there's possibilities what it could be. Like a new body or something, but all in all, I just hope a third Crank gets made, and that's why I put this movie at number 5. Kicking off at number 4 is going to be for a zombie horror film, and this is also a second installment that never got continued from where it ended, and that is 28 Weeks Later from 2007. Now, this sequel, yes, it's not as good as 28 Days Later, but it's still very good for a horror sequel that wasn't needed at all either. I mean, 28 Days Later ended the story, wrapped everything up, and 28 Days Later didn't really need a sequel, as it didn't really set one up, as it kind of wrapped up the whole story, but I like how 28 Weeks Later kind of focuses on different characters because we've already told the first movie's characters, and we actually kind of take place where the outbreak ended, or if it just magically comes back. Again, like I would love to see, like, how this whole thing happened after it spread to the rest of Europe at the very end of 28 weeks later. Like, I like to see, like, maybe at 28 months later or something like that. Like, or just a 28 years later. Maybe, like, yeah, so I'd like to also see a third and final installment in this series where they can somehow contain the outbreak for good or to finally destroy the rage outbreak and everything like that. I mean, even have Jim come back. I don't care what the comics say about Jim, if he died or not. Like, this silly Murphy has even, or Killing Murphy has even hinted that Jim could come back if a third one gets made, willing to return if they ever decide to bring back Jim for the third one. So I really hope they make the third one. We bring back Jim in the storyline again. I mean, because one of my big problems with 20 Weeks Later is the kids were annoying as fuck. So I hope we can just go back to Jim with this movie, because Jim was actually a badass character. He was smart. He actually did not make stupid decisions. Like, none of the characters in 28 Days made dumb decisions. And that's why they survived, because they actually knew what they were dealing with. But yeah, I like to see a third film with the rest of Europe dealing with the whole outbreak after it broke out of London at the end of 28 weeks. So yeah, that's why 28 Weeks Later would have to be at number 4 for me, and I hope we get 28 months later eventually. Kicking off at number 3 is for a movie I reviewed that came out last year, and it's going to be for like a John Wick themed action film, and that is of course Nobody. After the success of Hardcore Henry, the director, I forget his last name, moved on to a John Wick themed styled film for his next action movie, and that of course proved to be Nobody, the big hit from last year. One of my favorite films from 2021. Like, this is pretty much John Wick with Saul Goodman, and it's pretty much about this family guy who reveals his true character after his house gets robbed by 2 thieves, and that leads him to a bloody war with a Russian crime boss. Like, it's just, I love this film. It's just epic. It's well runtime. It's got a reasonable runtime. It's perfectly paced, and it's very brutal as well. Like, if John Wick can get more movies out of him that have proved to be good so far, then so can Bob Odenkirk's character in this. I would like to see him get like some more stories, and I'd like to see this be a crossover with John Wick, where Bob Odenkirk's character and John Wick team up in a movie or something. Like, I like to see sequels to this movie too, because like, this is a character you have potential to give more stories as well. I mean, John Wick can have more stories, so can Bob Odenkirk's character. I mean, heck, I'd also even like to see Christopher Lloyd's character come back for more sequels too. Have a spin-off of Christopher Lloyd's character even. Just, there's so much you can do with this movie. And I really hope they do get around to their senses and even still make this sequel eventually, because this is an action movie that actually should be getting sequels, much like John Wick. So, that's why I put Nobody at number 3. Kicking off at number 2 is going to be for another superhero film that's from an unknown publisher and pretty much nobody remembers or thinks of or talks about, and that is 2012's Dredd. This movie is wicked underrated, especially for a comic book character that's not from either Dark Horse Comics, Marvel, or DC. And this was long needed after that dreaded Sylvester Stallone garbage from 1995. Like, this is everything any Dredd fan who knows about Judge Dredd would want in a Dredd movie. Brutal gore, violent content, like, drug use, and just nasty people. Like, in a violent futuristic city where the police have the authority to act as judge, jury, and executioner, a cop teams up with a trainee to take down a gang that deals with the reality-altering drug slow-mo. And just, yeah. Carl Urban is a very badass Dredd. He deserves... Like, he is everything you want to see Dredd portrayed like, and unfortunately, even though this got positive reviews from critics, this movie bombed at the box office when it first released, which it should not have bombed, because this is just a phenomenal film to sit through from start to finish. This is everything you want in a Dredd movie. It was definitely needed for Dredd fans. We finally got to have the good Dredd movie. Unfortunately, and now that it's getting more and more popular, it's now become a cult classic, and now more people are starting to notice this movie. I really hope we can finally get Dredd 2, where Carl Urban comes back and plays Dredd again, because his Dredd deserves to have a continuation and deserves to have a trilogy of his own. And stuff like this is just entertaining from start to finish. finish. And but anyway, Dread at number 2 is definitely first second film that deserves a sequel the most. And finally, the number 1 movie that deserves to have a sequel for sure is 2017's Blade Runner 2049. Now, this is technically a 30 years way too late sequel, but it's a 30 years too late sequel that actually is good. And it's just phenomenal from start to finish. I'm one of those few people that isn't really a fan of the first one. I think the first one's just okay, but this movie, wow. This movie just blows my mind from start to finish. It's worth the 160-minute runtime. I get really Scott hated that the movie was way too long, but the movie being 160 minutes was worth it. And I really hate this movie bombed at the box office. This movie deserves to be recognized by so many people and stuff, but too many people are so naive in this era. They don't even know great sequels like this. While I am relieved we are getting a continuation TV series, I still think this deserves a sequel film as well, because I would like to see Rick Deckard actually reunited with his daughter most of the film, have it take place at the end of Blade Runner 2049 and stuff, and just see more of Deckard and stuff. And it can make up for the little screen time he had in Blade Runner 2049, where he takes the center role again and stuff, and have it be about him and his daughter, and stuff. There's just, this is still a world you can't explore. It bombed at the box office and stuff, but at least we're getting a follow-up TV series at least, so, yeah. Even though we're getting a follow-up TV series, I still definitely think Blade Runner 2049 is the number 1 movie that deserves to have a sequel. And there we go! That wraps up my list of the top 11 movies that deserve a sequel. I want to see in the comments down below what you think of my list, or what movies you think deserve sequels in your own personal list. And until then, guys, that'll be it for this video. Thank you all for watching, and if you like this and want to see more, then don't forget to subscribe to Movie Lover 120.